Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Pod Podcast. This is our first post Expo West 2025 edition of the world's greatest podcast, the Pod Podcast. And we're here with Lauren from Live Love Pop. We've been working together for a while. It's great product. It's a lot of fun working together. But there's a story behind the brand and an interesting one at that. So interested to hear what you have to say, and really just like any founder that's had as much success as you, what got you into this in the first place and what kept you going these years into it, because it's not easy and it's not for the faint of heart. So welcome to the show and happy to hear your story.
Thank you for having me, Peter. You nailed it by saying it's not for the faint of heart. Never dreamt I'd be in this industry, if I'm just being completely candid. Wasn't on a list of like my check off things to do in my life, but life throws you all the curveballs. And my mom was diagnosed with a very rare form of breast cancer in 2013. And growing up, in my household, microwave was like a whole just no. We weren't allowed to do microwave popcorn, but stovetop popcorn was our most favorite snack. Um, so speeding forward to 2013, my mom gets diagnosed and I am distraught. My mom's my best friend. I'm the middle child. I never moved away from home. And I just decided to quit my job because I couldn't find time to attend these chemo treatments with her and I wanted to be there for her. And during that time it was imperative for me to find somewhere to go channel my energy into and do something bigger than myself, but also do something for others that might, and I know were feeling and have felt that feeling of someone you love go through something so traumatic and there's so much uncertainty. So to say Live Love Pop was a lifeline for me would be just underscoring the entire company because that's why I'm here. I'm here because of my mom. And popcorn was this like special snack for my family and I. And never have I ever not popped it or done stovetop or brought it to college, et cetera, et cetera. So it's always been part of my life. So my mom gets sick. I quit my job. We're attending treatments and I decide to start Live Love Pop. By the way, the name of the brand tells you everything kind of like of what I was going through at that moment in time of my life. And my dad, I'm sure thought I was crazy at the time, but was like totally agreed to go in with me on this little, 500 square foot kitchen. And I started hand popping every single batch. And I knew I wanted to give back to charities because that was kind of like my something bigger than myself portion of the company, right? Like I wanted to go donate back to breast cancer research and figure out a way to, again, just keep my mind off my mom being so sick. Um, by the way, just to preface, my mom is in remission now, which is just
Oh, wow.
makes this company even more special, but more exciting and fun for me to run. And it's been 10 years, 10 and a half years almost. And we have evolved so much over those course of 10 years. And I've made every mistake you could possibly imagine as a founder within CPG. But I will say that it's taught me so much about who I am, but also like the product that I want out there. I think it's a lot about resiliency. You got to stay there. You got to be like a hustler. We were just talking about this in this specific category too, right? Because I'm competing against a Skinny Pop and a Lesser Evil and a Boom Chicka Pop and these companies that have been purchased for billions of dollars.
Right.
And I don't think I could stay in this unless I truly believed we had a superior product because we do. We pop small batch, it's a clean product. Who doesn't love popcorn? It's a snack that I feel good feeding my children. It's a snack that I feel good having myself. And I feel really good about putting it on the shelf to go offer to somebody else. And where the way we've set ourselves apart is my story is that I'm not from this industry. This has just been a complete learning curve. And again, I've had to make a lot of mistakes. Like I think my most favorite thing knowing Live Love Pop today is that we've made mistakes. We've been taken out of like major retailers, like a Kroger, and now we're back. So it's just like we come full circle of understanding like what you have to do to support a retailer.
Right.
You can't just
And
go
it,
onto the shelf
and it's
and
a
cross your
moving target
fingers.
too. It's a moving target
It
sometimes.
is, and again, like I think if you knew what you were getting into, you wouldn't do it, maybe, or maybe that's just me.
Yeah.
But it's been truly an honor to be in this industry, but more importantly, do this because of my mom. And that I never lose sight of that. That's what keeps me in it, is knowing that, like, all right, I remember this time vividly, and this was my outlet. This was my lifeline. I would go into this kitchen every day. I somehow talked my cousin into helping me pop because she had just graduated from SMU. Um, my now COO, who's my sister-in-law, helped me pop in the early days too. It was just like, hey, do you want to literally make minimum wage? I mean, $7 an hour, and come help me pop and seal and box this product.
Yeah, you're not selling it, right? It's like I'll pay you minimum wage and you can pop popcorn 12
Exactly.
hours a day, But she
Yes. And
did
I mean, you talk about like humbling yourself,
it.
right? I mean, I can honestly say I don't want to go pop another bag of popcorn
Yeah.
for the rest of my life, but I think that's part of our story and how we hung on for so long. Because I did have this family network behind me. I had my mom, I had my dad, and like, thank God I had my mom, because I honestly don't know what the turnout would have been if I had lost my mom during that time.
Yeah, sure.
Um, it gives me chills thinking about it, because I still just, pray every day that she stays in remission. And again, she's truly like the driving force and inspiration by the whole line. So every bag donates back to a different charity. It's called our selfless snacking campaign. Excuse me. My mom's favorite flavor is the truffle salt, which just so happens to be our best seller, like just hands down across 7 flavors. And then the rest of the flavors donate back to different charities that mean something or another to my family and myself. So there's a whole lot of meaning behind the brand. And again, like I am just like this tried and true, like I don't want to change the way I pop my popcorn, which is just like the classic oil popped popcorn. We're not doing this air popping. Air popping uses oil as well.
Right,
It's
right.
just
Just
put
like air
on
frying
later.
oil,
And
right?
so that's where I think, again, you talk about like differentiators within a category. We check off a lot of those boxes. We're certified women owned. We give back. We've got a story, but I won't commit to any other co-packer that refuses to pop the way my mom has taught me how to pop, because I think that
That's the brand, right?
that's the brand. It's love. It's exactly like there's nothing different from what I would do on like a smaller pot versus what we're doing right now. We just have a bunch of them in line now, which is
Mhm.
great. Thank goodness for my co-packer, because that was one of the biggest hurdles for me, was transitioning from this like little tiny kitchen that I could control everything,
Right.
going into like this big co-packing. It's different. And it took us a long time to nail it down. And I will always thank my past self, just sticking with that, because again, you can go grab a bag of Flip Flip Pop and open some other competitors, and you'll be like, wow, there's a taste difference too. And there's a mission behind it, which is even more of a feel good, because this consumer, I feel like, and you would know this better than anybody, I think, because of like your experience, but the customer wants to feel something now when they're buying a product, or if they can feel something, they're more prone to buy it, more inspired to buy it.
Yeah.
Especially the woman owned, amazing. And it's not an easy certification to get. These are, you're put through the ringer with a billion questions and paperwork, but all worth it. So yeah, 10 years later, we're still popping. Um, Again, never would I ever have dreamt I would be here, but we've got a lot of exciting things post Expo, and excited for customers to be able to get their hands on the product
Well,
easier with how we've been currently distributed, at least in the past.
it's a hard business to be in, but it's also forgiving too,
Yes.
right? Because people don't stop eating, right? They eat every
Thank
day,
goodness.
multiple times. Eating is never going to go out of style. And so if you make mistakes, you can recover and pick yourself back up and you can pivot. And sometimes you don't make mistakes, but you just get bad luck. But
Yes.
you can recover and you can pivot. And if you
Exactly.
work in a retailer that it's not the right time and place for the brand, there's still always another chance as long as you stick to it, and
Yeah.
it's a, there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that needs to go into it. And I think what's really interesting is generationally, the younger consumers now, the Gen Z consumers, for them, that authenticity and having the story and having the mission behind the product is not a nice to have. It's just obligatory. Like if that's
Exactly.
there's
Nailed
just
it.
so many choices. When I was a kid, there weren't as many choices, right? You would go to the store
It was
and
unheard of, kind of.
right. You would have a few channels on television and you could go to Blockbuster and rent a movie, but there wasn't this concept of instant gratification all of the time.
Agreed.
Like now, all of the kids are brought up having almost infinite choices. And so, like, if they're going to choose a popcorn, it's got to have all of the above. It has to taste good. It has to be a cool package. It has to have the story. When I taste your product, it to me it feels nostalgic, right? And that's what you're describing, right?
Yes.
It's a clean product, but it's not a clean product in a space age polymer kind of a way. It's clean because that's how people used to make popcorn before they invented all kinds of
Yes. Just like
additives,
simple.
right?
You don't need much to make it taste good.
Right. But it's not easy to find that. Like it's easy to find nouveau popcorn, some of which is very good, with all sorts of cool different methods and flavors.
Hmm.
But and then it's easy to find the real junk with all sorts of artificial additives. But to just find, like, to me, if I had the time, this is the kind of popcorn I would make, right? I would just make it myself. If I was
Same.
going to commit to the time to doing it, that's what I would do. But people don't have the time, right? So they can buy that authentic homemade taste in a packaged product and save, and that's the target market, which is a lot of people, I would imagine.
Yeah, I listen. I mean, you said it with like the nostalgia. It's like so. I can't remember ever a time like where people weren't eating popcorn, no matter what type of popcorn it was. Right? You could do microwave, stovetop, you name it, but there's nothing like a homemade batch of popcorn,
Yeah.
and especially like warm. If you're
Yeah.
like doing it on the stove, there's nothing. I keep truffle salt in my pantry. I keep my oil. I keep my kernels, and it's just. And it really brings me back to this time because I'm my husband, who we dated like 9 years prior to getting married. And he remembers like coming over to my house and having Susie's stovetop popcorn,
Yeah.
like the truffle salt popcorn. We just made it all the time. And he's like, oh my gosh, I'll never forget how good that was. And so that's kind of cool for me. I'm like, I love that feeling that
Yeah.
it creates inside you.
Yeah.
Um, but it is still like weird today when you're like, oh, well, what do you do? I'm like, it's popcorn. I own a popcorn company.
Yeah. That's
Um,
cool. Yeah.
yeah, it is cool. And
But
it's been
people probably
really,
can't relate to that. I mean, for one thing, if you've never been a founder, that's a whole different ball of wax.
yes.
But when you're creating something that's relatively familiar, like popcorn, I think that's even harder for people to wrap their head around, right? Like if you created a, rocket ship company, that's like it's a different story, but you're
Yes.
making popcorn, which is something that most people have done, but you've turned it into an enterprise,
Hmm.
which most people wouldn't think to do, right? Because, but you've got this, the wherewithal to stick to it, right? I think it's relatively easy to come up with the idea, right?
Yes.
The idea that you
Absolutely.
describe is like, okay, well, you could do that in an afternoon. We're going to do this, this, and this, and this, and but to actually go do it for 10 years, that's the hard part.
Yeah. No, it's again, like if you were to know what was ahead of you, I don't think you would go do it.
Yeah, no one would do it.
No one would do it. It's I because I have like my mental breakdowns weekly where you're just like, what am I doing? This is exhausting. But I do think it's that that, especially again, like CPG, it's like who can hang in, who can hang around the longest,
Yeah.
who's going to keep innovating. And I love that about the product is that we've never stopped innovating. Is like we want to be the popcorn. Like I would never tell you to take Skinny Pop off your shelf. I would tell you that I complement your shelf set because we've got these innovative, one of a kind flavors that nobody else offers on the market. And again, with all the things that we just mentioned, with being the woman owned, having the mission and um, the campaign behind our bag of like giving back with every bag purchased, I think that's, again, you have to have your differentiators. And I think, you had to learn really fast that no doesn't mean no forever. And even if they're like, see you later, that doesn't mean see you later forever.
Right.
Um,
Or they ignore you completely, then
ooh, yeah, I've been there.
which is the worst.
And that's hard for me to handle, especially with my personality type. It's just, I'm like, what did I do wrong?
Right.
Because I genuinely love learning in this industry. I think it's been one of the most rewarding parts is just learning about business and entrepreneurship, but also just like not giving up. And I think that's also where like my mom ties into this is that she never gave up throughout the whole process. I mean, and it was rough. We just, again, tons of uncertainty, not really knowing what the outcome was going to be. But she was like this little warrior woman who never said, I'm going to back down or I'm going to let this take over my life. So, forever grateful for that
Well, it
person.
sounds
And
like her DNA is all the way through the company and everything that you do. And you need that's your North Star, your North
yeah,
Star, and
exactly.
every company has to have that North Star because the tactics might change daily, but as long as that overarching mission is always there, you can keep up with it, and it's what gets you up in the morning, right? And if you know
100%.
what to do, big picture, and how to do it, and what's right and what's wrong, then 100 things can go wrong tomorrow, but you're still going to be resilient enough
Yeah. And they
to,
always do. That
right?
tomorrow always comes and they always do go wrong. So, no, but again, super rewarding just industry and super excited to what's come for Live Love Pop. We've got, again, I've got a team behind me finally. It's not just me. And that's also helpful.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're just thrilled about, the success and new stuff we've got coming up in the next year and two.
Well, we're excited to be working with you. We're happy for your success. We want to see you be able to continue to grow. So we'll shout it from the rooftops.
Thank
And
you, Peter.
here's to another 10 years.
Yes,
Fun.
absolutely.
All right. Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
All right.